going to be we're busting your YouTube cherry tonight.
Yeah, bring the shit.
All righty, so we're live. Here we are, live. Good evening, Melbourne. Good evening, Australia. Good evening, world, wherever you may be. It's welcome to Mastering Music, Mastering Life. I'm Tony Jack the Bear Mance, and we are here at the Croxton Park Hotel front room, along with my special guest, radio host, metal maniac, one half of Contrive, vegan, runner, skydiver, all around nice bloke,
Do my thing.
and the guy who brings us shit.
Total shit.
Andy Haug, dude.
Howdy do.
Good
Thanks
to
for having
see
me.
you. No, absolutely pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming down and doing the podcast.
Pleasure.
We've been trying to get you for a little while now.
Now it's here. It's happening.
It's
real.
So, and it's interesting because you'll be the tonight is our final streaming live thing from Croxton Park.
Yep.
Hotel front room. As of next week, we're going to be doing it from my mastering show Deluxe, which is where I used to do my previous podcast, Melbourne Unreal. And but all the panel events and stuff that I put on will be still happening here. So we're going to have two sort of separate things going on. But so you're the last guest as far as the Croxton Park front room for the podcast is concerned. And tonight we're also streaming live from our Mastering Music, Mastering Life YouTube channel. So you're the first. You're the last here and the first of that. So
Perfect timing.
very, very pivotal there, my friend.
Yes.
So which is great. Any of you out there tonight who have any questions at all, who want to direct it towards Andy about anything that we discuss at all, please, or comments, whatever, just drop them in from the Tony Jack the Bear Mance site. That's where we're streaming from this evening. So, alrighty, Andy.
Yo.
What is going on?
Too much.
Start.
Which is good.
We'll start from the start. What's you got a new album? Which
Yeah.
Tell us about this new album of yours.
Well, I play in a band with my twin brother called Contrive. We've been around for quite a few years, but it's interesting when some bands say, I've been going for eons. It's like, well, how much is that full-time work? So I reckon we've been around 7 years when you combine all that sort of work as opposed to 10 or 15 or whatever. Our third record should be out around July, August. Of course, we had good friends of ours, Dave Young from Devon Townsend Band and his brother Mike mixed the record. He's from Canada. And, of course, mastered by your great self.
Yeah.
Some good mastering sessions there at Deluxe.
Well, there's an interesting story you told us about how the Young Brothers got on board, right? Because I think so. I think it's a good story to tell because sometimes people never know how opportunity can knock on your door. You know, and so I think it's a great story to tell people who sometimes just think, man, shit never happens to me, or I never get a break, and how just things can turn around.
Dave had done the keyboards on the record, and bits and pieces before the mixing had been confirmed, and we were looking at another guy in Switzerland at the time, and it was just a schedule clash, and we were saying, we're ready to go with this, and he said, but I'm booked up till April, and this was December last year. We were like, what? And all of a sudden, he said he had a window, but we still hadn't finished things, so it was just, all right, what are we going to do? And Dave had sort of mentioned in discussions that, because he does his own other bands outside of Devon Townsend, and he mentioned that he and his brother are sort of setting up a production company as well. That's when a penny dropped, and I was talking to Paul, and I just said, man, let's give him a go. And I hit up Dave after he'd done all the keyboards and stuff like that, and just said, he's a pretty accomplished musician anyway, and his brother. I said, would you be keen to give it a go? Maybe send a test mix through, and we can see what you can do. And he said, absolutely. He was just was floored by it just to have that chance, and we were just, dude, go for it. And what he sent through, we were like, man, you're it. Let's go. But it did take quite a while because he was doing it in between tours as well. Because, like I said, he tours extensively with Devon Townsend, and we just knew we were kind of at the mercy of his schedule. And I think over the years we've just developed this patience of just accepting some things aren't going to happen tomorrow, even though we're in a very impatient society and always got to have it done now and instantaneous. We just went, all right, it'll just take time. But I'm kind of glad I went that way because you get to iron out all the kinks, and plus you also get to overanalyze it even more because you're not on a deadline, which can cause it to drag out a little bit more. So you have that luxury. So we just went, yeah, cool, just until it's all done. And he did a killer job, him and his brother. And Young Brothers Productions, check them out. So yeah, we're totally stoked with the album, and we'll just see how it pans out when we get out there as a two-piece. Yeah, being me and the twin bros. So
what inspired that to go? Because when you first told me, when you rang me and said, look, we're doing an album and now it's just me and my bro, I thought, oh, okay. So how did
we'd been a three-piece for quite a number of years, but our bass player, Tim, family time commitment that generally happens to most people in music, unfortunately. And not as in, unfortunately, it's fine with families, just as in,
Yeah, it just happens.
you're going to have to try and
Yeah.
juggle it, or some just say, I got to let it go,
Mm.
So we kind of knew it was sort of going that way. Bit of an elephant in the room, turning up late for rehearsals. All right, cool, man. We'll do everything we can when his firstborn will come around, and we try to make the schedule as easy for him as possible. And I could just see it was just getting harder. And then the second one came. I was like, and I was talking to Paul. I said, man, we got to be realistic here. He's not going to have the time to commit, because that's what Paul and I want to do. And we travel regularly anyway, so we're not sort of tied down to that kind of commitment. And long story short, Paul just said, who could we get? I said, man, to go through to find someone in the scene, then you got to deal with their schedule and their personal stuff. And Tim's, like our, third brother basically. And
Yeah.
it's not just about your ability of playing, it's how you connect as the people. And I know a lot of people in bands, they hate half their members, but they got to get out and do what they got to do, and it works. But eventually something's going to implode. And I don't want to be in the company of people I hate just because we connect well creatively on stage, because, eventually the cracks show. So we look at the way technology is today, and there are a lot of people using the technology as long as you use it right. And I've seen bands that have a keyboard player on stage, but they're also running backing tracks of keys. And you think, well, what's that person there for?
Yeah.
So I'd said to Paul, look, let's try something different. Hey, we're twin brothers, a good marketing angle, fair enough. Let's just run backing tracks for bass, because I've been running backing keys anyway for the previous songs. Plus, I trigger samples on the fly, like Lucius from Haug, inspiration.
Shout out Lucius.
So I just figured that this is just one extra thing we're going to add that I can already do. No big deal. And plus, it's his bass playing on the album anyway, so he's got the best job. You can just turn up to a gig, hear himself in perfect time, won't have to load any gear, and go home. So took a while for Paul to sort of go, okay. And we had the chat with Tim, and he just said, look, I feel like I'm holding you back. And we said, we feel like we're holding you back. So it was win-win, lose-lose, and we're still great friends. And he's rapped with the record as well. And he's still a part of it, he's just can't commit to it. And that's how we decided, let's just do the two-piece. And a lot of people are still, we haven't played live yet as that. We've done some test rehearsals, which have worked. So I think a lot of people are pretty intrigued. And I also said to Paul, I said, you look at music today, there's no real taboo now. You can just try anything. I saw a one-man death metal band at the corner a few weeks ago, just playing to a brutal backing track on an iPod. And it was just like, this is so unique, because everyone expects you got to have 5 or 6 members or whatever. And plus, Paul and I have designed the set when we play live that we're playing side by side. This is pretty much almost the same scenario. I'm sort of on an angle instead of deadpan in the center of the stage.
Then you got the visual cue going on. Yeah,
so I'm both feeding off each other, because we both get into the music we play anyway. And that's what it's about, connecting together, and see whoever out there connects to it. We've been at that for over a year and a half now, just sort of chipping away at it, and it's ready to go. We just want to get the album finished. So. And
you've had a chance to tour it too. You recently did a festival up in Indo, right?
No, we just went over there just for production
just
and
check
assisting and stuff. We should be on there next year, hopefully. But we've done a few test rehearsals at a few sort of venues we've just hired out, just to think, okay, it can all work great in rehearsal, but in the live area, we're like, so we've done tests and it works. It's totally fine. It's like, I'm just ready to go with this now. So he gets back from his trip, let's burrow down, pardon me, and get the record set up and get out and just play. That's the thing, So
you tour. Obviously, you'll take around the country. You got some international dates. You want at the moment for it?
Hopefully Indo and maybe Vietnam as well. We just sort of want to go most places we can. Want to try and hit Europe as well. And again, I think it's hopefully, aside from the music factor, that 2 people is a lot easier to deal with on a tour than 5 or 6. Because I'm seeing bands tour Europe and like 6-piece band, and you go, Christ, that is a lot of people. That's a lot of flights. That's a lot of money. Whereas 2, we've become completely, self-contained, self-reliant. We've got our production things set up, all our gear. So it's just a matter of hitting up bands that we know and figure out a tour package and say, look, there's only going to be 2 of us on the bus. Let's do it. And they'd be like, sure, hopefully. So, got to get out there and make opportunities,
Yeah, metal's one of those interesting things for me, because I'm, unlike yourself, I don't claim to be an aficionado of it.
Yeah.
I know what I like, but I think metal for me is probably one of those genres that probably has the most subgenres of subgenres.
It's ridiculous today. I've given
across.
up. I just think, call it heavy music. It's interesting because so many bands want to feel like they're doing something different, so they kind of create their own scene or their own subgenre. and then all of a sudden there's another 12 bands that sound like them, and then they get lumped into that. And I think if you lump yourself into a subgenre, you won't bust out of it, and you'll just sort of stick with the rest of them. Some bands get put into it though without even asking. Someone said, that's the problem. Other people can also label them. And they're like Suicide Silence, good friends of mine. They've been called deathcore, and the band themselves are like, we don't know what the hell that means. We're like, what? So someone else has coined that, and then the media runs with it, and all of a sudden they're lumped in with about 20 other bands that have stolen their sound, and they're like, same as Korn. Even the band go, what's new metal? Like, what? But now they're the granddaddies of new metal because they're still going. It's like, no, they just made their own sound and were doing something different. All of a sudden they got a stack of clones that came along, flooded the scene. People got bored with the sound, and now everyone blames them for it. It's sort of, I don't know. The whole subgenre thing, I think it's just a joke. I just try and judge people on their musical merits as opposed to. Yeah. But unfortunately, we all sort of, what's this band sound like? Oh, kind of death metal, Cannibal Corpse meets blah, blah, blah. Okay, it just gives you a picture. We all just have to label things because as humans, people
need something to identify with.
I know.
I find that often happens when a band will come in the studio and they do a record, and I'll say, so what do you think we are? How would you describe us? Yeah. And it's really, really difficult to be able to do these days because unless you're speaking in the very sort of broad major food groups.
Yeah, we've had the same thing. I mean, we sort of fall through the cracks of rock and metal. I mean, people say, what do you sound like now? I go, I don't know. I'd say more progressive. But yeah, you sort of have to. It's almost like we're all forced into having to label things we do because it's got to give someone an indication of what they're going to expect. Yeah. Even though you got to tell people, it's just different. See what you think. Make your own mind up, you know. But some people don't have the time or patience for that. They want to know the label so they can think, I don't want to check that out. That's not my thing.
The other thing too, I guess, is you run Andy Haug Radio.
Yep.
So you're the first world 24/7 internet rock station.
In Australia, the first one.
You're the first in Australia,
that
right?
I know of, yeah.
So working in that environment, I imagine you'd be sent so much stuff from all over the place. So
ridiculous.
You'd be in terms of being up to speed. I mean, and I imagine it'd be impossible to be able to keep up with fucking everything.
I've accepted it. You can't keep up.
Not enough time to listen to everything. No. But if there's anyone's going to know the subgenres, it'll be you. But I found that an interesting story, and this is one that I think was great because you were on Triple J for many, many years doing Full Metal Racket.
Yep.
It was a huge metal show. You were probably in terms of the metal scene, you were, shall we call you an authority, but you're certainly on the forefront. A lot of people knew who you were. You were well versed in it. You had a very popular show, and then that all ended.
Yep.
And that would have been really easy for someone to get really bitter and twisted about, because especially if you've been doing something for a long time at that level, one thing that people can find can happen. Look, of course, you'd be pissed, you'd be upset, your ego could be bruised. We're human after all. But for me, I love the fact that you decided that after you sort of had your mourning period, you decided, fuck this, and you dived into something that, as you said to me, had no fucking idea about, really.
No.
Like in terms of the technical aspect of it.
This is a story. A lot of people really, I mean, I was at the Jays for 11 years. I think still the longest standing metal DJ in the history of the station. A lot of people don't know the fact that it was them that sort of gave me the see you later, as opposed to me sort of passing the torch as it was played out on their story, And I kind of got told a year in advance, like, we're looking at, see you later next year. It's like, what? And that was really like, are you kidding me? And one thing like I said, every week, I never took it for granted. The same as I tell this to the radio students. I lecture regularly at the Radio Training Institute in South Melbourne. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people ask about stories and the whole radio career thing. So I knew when I get in there every week, okay, this is 1 week less that I'm going to be doing this, hopefully, unless the management turn things around. So, there was frustration, of course, hoping that, in the next 6-month review, they're going to say, oh, no, we think you're doing a good job. It really wasn't anything down to my ability either. It was just the whole succession planning, that's just companies, that's what they do. So I always knew every week when I go in there, that it's my duty to do the best show I can for the people that look forward to hearing it every week. And I always tell people it's never about me. It was just that I was in such a privileged position to be a messenger. And that's the thing. Radio is such a powerful medium that you can get sucked up by your own ego purely because it's all ears on me. But to me, it's like, no, I'm just giving a message. And that's why I always knew when I've been doing radio 23 years, I never took it for granted every I just walk in every week going, someone's paying me to do this. This is ludicrous. I remember when I first started, they even said to me, what's your bank details? I said, what for? Because I'd been on Triple R prior to that, and that was voluntary. And they said, well, this is paid. And I was like, are you kidding? that's the furthest thing from my mind was, oh yeah, I'm going to get paid now. That's the problem. Like I said, the illusion, people chasing the money for it as well, which we can go down another path on that one. So anyway, long story short, the whole thing, when they sort of 6-month review, it was like, well, it's going to stand as is. We're looking next year. And then it was, can you help us hold a competition to find your replacement? It's like, fucking stick it. As if, to me, I was like shattered. This is a dream job. And what sort of hit me at the time was just, when you think you're in control of everything that you have going on, your careers or whatever, it's like, no, it's sometimes things are being controlled elsewhere and you don't have control of that. So that was a struggle at the time because, I'm pretty controlling in a lot of areas of my life, because when you get a focus, you know where you want to go, you control the journey, and you just avoid any potholes you see because you think you're seeing them, and then bang, you just get by a truck and you go, fuck, where did this one come from?
Yeah.
And that's when you go, okay, this is another test. So at the time, I sort of near the end of that year, I was checking out, because I thought, well, nothing against community radio. I've been there. I'm not going to go, oh, g'day, Triple R, PBS. I've just done 11 years on national radio. Any spots for me to do a metal show at 4 a.m? I just thought, not saying beyond that. I've sort of been there. I thought, where else can I go? And checked out satellite radio, a few places in the States. And that was a very difficult place to get in. And then I just stumbled across some link about, online radio. I was like, well, obviously we know that, it's more prevalent now than it was 4 or 5 years ago when I created the idea. And I thought, I'm going to check this out. Like I said, I had no idea I was going to do it. I just thought, I want to keep living my passion. I've just got to go find a new mountain to climb or build one and climb it. And that's it. That's when I just went, okay. I remember the final week of my last show, the next week I was in Sydney for something, I can't remember. And that's when I just went, all right, I want to do this. I've still got the piece of paper. I sat on a park bench somewhere in Central Park of Sydney or whatever, and I just started taking notes on this idea of building my own 24/7 station. Because when I grew up listening to the Triple R Metal Show, which I ended up becoming a host of, and I kind of met the guy who used to host it, Alan Thomas, rest in peace. I would still freak out talking to him and hearing his voice, and we became friends. And I still just go, wow, now we're mates, and now he gave me a spot on his show doing a demo segment. And for years I'd listen to his show, and just after the show would finish, you just go, oh, I wish there was more coming, and you just think, oh, one day someone's going to do a 24/7. So I probably had it in my subconscious way, way back, not even dreaming any of the technology we have today would ever come to fruition. So I just went, man, this is the perfect time to give this a go. And everything that could go wrong has.
Always.
And this is, I tell people, they go, very successful. I go, this whole thing's just been failure. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, every fuck up that you have along the way is failure, but as long as you don't sit in it too long, you'll succeed by getting through that step. If a plugin doesn't work or something's not downloading, it's just, there were times where I was almost defeated, just going, and I just thought, I've just got to walk away from this for an hour or a week, or just, it's like I said, this is the building process. It took about 8 months to put together. And again, I sourced all the equipment online, and I had no idea what RCAs did. I had no clue. All I knew was turn on the button here, let's talk metal, blah, blah, blah. This band's got a 6 album and I know every song to it. But
just make a point.
The back end.
If I could. Just a point. Sorry, mate.
Tangents, I told you were warned.
Just a point. Because I think it's really important that we get this out there. Because one of the reasons of this podcast is to get people to share the story, but also as you're sharing your stories, I want to emphasize some things that anyone's watching or listening take a point, and that really important ones about making mistakes is that's really the way to learn. And we associate failure, mistakes, as we're not doing it right. And everyone that I know, myself included, had to make more fuck ups than good things. And it's interesting because the perception from people is it's like an iceberg. People only see the 10% above, or 15%, whatever the fuck it is, above the waterline.
Yep.
And underneath the whole mass, that's where all the disappointment and heartache and fucking all that shit happens that people don't see and don't know. So that's what they see. That's what they assume. And so that's why, people go, oh, fuck, you're so successful. You're so this and that.
No, they have no idea.
So,
to me, at the same time, they don't think they need to.
There was a question. Hang on.
Okay.
Make your point. Make your point. All right, let's get the question first. Hang on.
Yeah.
There's a couple of questions, but Mick Rowe wants to know what keeps you guys motivated.
Metal riffs. That's another tangent of a question. I'll try and keep it brief. Oh man, you can go.
Oh, okay. I think for me, and I think for most people that are artistic and creative, it's a love of what you do. It's to be doing what you love doing. and to be able to do it to a point where you can make enough bank to pay your bills, and that's really what it's about. It's just the fact that every day you get up with a purpose, knowing that this is what I'm going to do, this is what I love to do, and that's why it's important really to sort of really be clear about the why behind what you do.
Yeah.
A lot of people do things because it's they think they're going to be rock stars, or it's about money, or all this perceived notion of fame and living the MTV rap video clip. When it's really not quite, it's nothing like that at all. I mean, again, it's just one side of things. So it's really about, again, just finding why you're doing it, and if it's in alignment with your values and you're honest to yourself about it and you're authentic in the reason why you're doing it, then the motivation isn't all that hard. You just will. There are going to be times when you're going to need a lift, and of course we go up and down. But in terms of rather than motivation, it's more about inspiration. Inspiration comes from within here. Motivation is good to get you up and going, but when you're inspired, you're just fucking on fire all the time. But what inspires, anyway, it's basically the love of what I do, man. Just purely the love of what I do, because that's why we do it. It's purely about, something that comes from here. It's something that's in your DNA. It's your identity. It's how you roll. It's who you are. And it's as simple as that.
For me, it's just sharing my love for the music I grew up with. It's just, to me, just contributing, and I guess it's just giving in a lot of ways. I look at the way how I built the station. It's like I've created a really good community where I sort of just pinch myself sometimes. I guess go, wow, people are still interested in not just hearing what I have to say about music, but I'm always curious what others have to say. And that's why I look at the Andrew Haug Radio Facebook page, and a lot of the comments we get and the people that we sort of engage in regularly, they're just good people that just love the music as much as we do. And I just, again, that just motivates me to keep contributing as much as I can, because I know that when they get home or they're on the bus on the way home and they just turn my app on, it's going to help them escape. Some send me messages at 5 a.m. I had to get up for a job and I heard, a old Metallica song and it made my morning. I'm like, that's the whole reason why. And I tell people it's not to be the biggest station in the world, it's to be one of the best. And I guess coming from a level that I've, learnt for such a long time, I wanted to make sure it stayed that way, because you can't sort of let it dip just because you're not on a bigger platform than you once were. It's just, that's what I tell a lot of people. Some people still come up and go, oh, the racket sucks now, it's not the same. I said, well, I'm still on air every Tuesday night, just 1 hour earlier, and you can see some a little bit caught in the digital haze of how the whole thing works. And all I tell people is, look, all I lost was a paycheck and a job title. I didn't lose passion, my integrity, my connection with people, my contacts, my love for why I'm into this stuff anyway. So all that's mine. I'm not worried about the rest of it, because that's going to come and go, and it already has. And I'm not concerned by that. So that's just to continue sharing other people's creativity, which is other people's music, to other people. They might get something out of it.
And that's a good point you made before about it's about giving. It's about putting out there. So again, everything is ultimately about, what have you got to bring? What have you got to contribute? Because that's the laws of nature, man. Once a tree stops giving fruit, it withers and dies. You stop, So in terms of what we do, that's about why we become successful, is because we want to help other people become successful. So doing things to help their profile, using your station, as a platform, working with bands maybe to go on tour, or, working those kids at the school to help them. So again, it's about, we get all this experience. We've been the beneficiaries of having had, mentors and help and in the past. So, as we get on, I believe we have a duty to pass that knowledge forward to the kids, because to the ones who want to listen, and thankfully there are enough that do. So the ones that are open and are willing to take it on board, we are, and that's the joy, man, and the fact that whereas the people that want to hold back to it, like we got some kind of proprietary system or secret technology. There's no fucking secrets. There's no anything. I mean, not everyone knows everything all the fucking time. And in fact, I find my greatest teachers actually fucking kids. I've got my kid, my guy, Tom Beard, my new intern.
Tom Beard.
Fucking learning from this cunt. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's fucking amazing. So, man, Tom, Tom, you love Tom. We all love Tom. But it's the giving aspect of it, man. It's as much as we can contribute, and that's where it's at.
Yep, totally.
We've got a couple of questions. They're coming hard and fast now. Matt Cooper wants to know, internet radio and podcasting seems to be getting bigger and bigger. What does the future hold for terrestrial radio?
I still think it has its place. I probably think they say it's just as strong. I think with technology now, there's just more options to have more things. I don't believe that there is any more of a bigger audience. I think it's bigger audiences are diminishing, same as look at TV. Most people, I don't watch TV anymore. I watch something else on...
Streaming on whatever.
Online, so I think people got to look at things with a sort of a new lens that small is the new big, because again, I can do more with my station than I could on Triple J. I had I did a live broadcast once on air. I think it was like a 8-person Q&A with Devon Townsend in each city or whatever, and it was just flawless. It was amazing. And again, you don't have to have a massive network to do that. Same as this sort of setup as well. People got to not sort of look at the numbers in terms of success. It's all about having a niche market or a niche core community, and they'll stick with you. And you look at all these podcasts out of nowhere, like, you know, a ton of subscribers. They all started from nothing anyway. And people, I just sort of tell people, it's not about the big numbers and all that stuff anymore, because most stations' ratings have dipped, and it's not because people aren't interested. We've just got more options now to go out and check out new things online. It's just information overload we've got today. But I always tell people, small's the new big in a lot of ways. You don't have to have a massive, like I said, my station, my aim wasn't to be the biggest in the world. So no, it'll be one of the best, as long as it's got a core stable following that's growing. It's all about the quantity and how much you put out is, to me, that's paramount about it, as opposed to, oh, the numbers are a bit low, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Numbers are interesting though too, because again, everything on paper can look good, because we know about the faster people buying Facebook likes and all that kind of stuff. But the interesting thing, I think, with terrestrial radio is where it'll get really interesting is when, because so many people, cars, for example, so many people, you know, have their traditional receivers still in their cars. They can get their radio happening. Yeah, we've got the digital radio thing going on too, but it'll be interesting to see what happens when we get internet satellite radio in cars as standard.
It's already happening in the UK.
When we get to that
and
point,
the US.
when we get to that point where, you know, we get a critical mass of cars. So the old shitty cars, even old shitty cars, for example, for the time, relative to the time, will have that as standard. That's when I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with terrestrial.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the station grow from its infancy when I built it, because you can see that there is a digital rise, and we're all just becoming accustomed to things. Now we have a lot more options of certain things we want to check out, and it's like, you know, you just don't know where it's going to go. But again, as you mentioned about the whole internet radio thing, as the question was, that it's totally growing versus terrestrial. Terrestrial, again, will always have its place. I just think that they're a little bit stuck in trying to be creative, because they got advertising bucks that people want to make sure that they're not going to lose listeners if they do something completely daring. So most of it's pretty, pardon the pun, contrived. I've flicked through stations and stuff, and you just go, it's the same old crap. It's just a new voice saying the same old script, and it's not as creative or daring. And I felt that for a while too when I was doing my J show. Not saying I was completely controlled in its format, but I had a lot of really good ideas I wanted to do, and it was just, you know, keep pumping the music out. And I thought, man, this is getting boring, because people want to connect more than just hearing a new song.
But there's also the thing that people do like familiarity, and that's the other thing. People, you know, they like to be comfortable. They like to know what they're listening to.
I think you've got to give people a chance just to throw something like a curveball and see what they react. If they react, okay, it worked. If they didn't, all right, well, then let's just go back to the same old. But you can only try.
And that's the beauty of being able to do your own thing, because you're the boss. You call the shots. You can do what the fuck you want. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you wear it, and you just move on and you know, do it. Any other questions there?
They continue to come.
Well, just give us one more, because I want to talk to Andy about something outside of music, if that's okay. But go on, fire away.
So Jay Petrola, who's an established BBC-supported music producer, he's had music on BBC Radio 1 and TV. He's wanting to know. He's just recently started fresh in Melbourne, and wants to know what the best place is for pro musos to network in Melbourne.
Depends on the style of music, to be honest. What sort of stuff is he? Didn't elaborate on what he's into.
Well, you know, I reckon you should check out Melbourne Musicians Forum on Facebook.
Yeah,
Melbourne, there's Melbourne Community Forum, Engineers Producers Forum. So I think if my first suggestion would be to go there first and introduce himself. They're great, they're friendly forums, a lot of cool people, very good, lot of help out there. So if he starts with that, I'm sure he'll hook up with someone else, and it'll just go on.
Find your niche.
Yeah, as Tom Lark would say, niche down, bitches.
Just like it.
So I want to ask you about something else, if that's all right. Just away from music for a while, because
go for it.
when we first time I caught up with you was many years ago when I was working at Sing Sing, and it was maybe 10 years or so since we spoke. A long fucking time.
While.
It was a long fucking time.
Yep.
Anyway, And it was interesting to hear catching up with you then as opposed to back then about, you know, Andy Haug had changed. He'd been through a lot. You know, you'd been through quite a bit of stuff. You'd a major overhaul in your life in terms of, you know, your attitude to life and how you saw things, and you know, you became vegan. You started running. You know, you had a pretty profound experience. I think it's okay we can talk about your dad if that's cool. And so, you know, it's interesting how, you know, we go through phases of life, and then shit happens, or a big event happens, and we, you know, some people have a wake up call, some people don't.
Yeah.
I had a wake up call. You also had a wake up call. So, you know, I'm really interested to just, you know, if you could tell the audience about just some of the biggest changes that have happened in your life in terms of your own personal life, and in terms of how you view life, and how, your well-being, and the direction it's taken you in, and how it's just affected your general day to day.
Shit, tangents. Where do I start? Well, I quit the piss probably about 8 years ago.
And how did that start? What prompted that?
Oh, I just woke up sick of feeling like shit, which everyone is used to, but we go out and hit it again the next day and go, yeah, cool, whatever, man, another beer, hair of the dog, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I did that for a long time. Again, alcoholism did run in my family. But for years, I just never saw it as a dependency at all. But I just hit it every weekend with mates, go on tour, just, you know, traveling overseas. This is what you did, especially the culture of music as well, especially the metal scene. It's renowned for just total fuck ups.
Pissing on hard.
Just going hard. I mean, that's the sort of lifestyle. So you just buy into it in some way. You just fall into it, you know. So yeah, I had one moment where I don't know. I can't. It's hard to explain, but I just sort of just got fed up with. I mean, because I was trying to keep fit and I was doing a lot of running, and just, you know, okay, the weekends come, you just ruin yourself, and you go, well, I've just wasted all that week of eating. I mean, most people do the same thing. They eat well during the week, and the weekend destroyed. And it's like, well, you're kind of wasting your time if you're trying to get a result of something you've done all week, and then you've ruined it with all that, because there's no benefits to drinking, you know, for your physicality. For your ego, yeah, you're the shit. But physically, it's just destroyer, you know. And
But you went vegan. I mean, you went vegan. So was that something that happened very quickly, or was that something that you evolved into, shall we say?
No, I'm pretty all or nothing. I do things to the extreme. So yeah, when I quit the piss, I just went cold turkey, and yeah, first couple of years that was tough. I was a pretty angry guy because I felt like everyone else was having fun except me, and I wasn't taking responsibility for the choices I made. That I don't want to keep doing this to myself. I probably should have embraced it more as a positive, but I was just like, fuck this. I couldn't be around people at bars. I go to gigs, out the door, have a massive meal, so I would avoid you want a beer, mate? Nah, I just had a big feed. I'm full. And just be like, oh man, this is really hard, because you go to gigs, you're not even feeling like a beer, and someone puts one on your face, yeah, man, I'm fine, start drinking again. You just get caught up in your ego. The whole thing is egoic, you know. And yeah, so with that, the first couple of years, it was tough. I was really just frustrated, just like, shit, I can see why people do it, because reality's tough. You walk out there and you look at the world with clear eyes. I talk about the fog clearing. It kind of did, and I was like, Christ, man, this is a pretty scary world we're in, because you're clear, you're seeing everything. You're not, you know, numbing it with that sort of stuff. Same as people with drugs. You know, you hear people, I couldn't quit this, and now I need a vice. Okay, what's your vice? You're escaping from reality, because reality is tough. I can see why people do it. I can understand there's those who enjoy it. A couple, if they've got moderation, then there's no harm in having a couple of beers, whatever. But I didn't have that level. I definitely had some dependency I wasn't aware of. Like I said, it ran in my family, and dad drank, so I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll do the same thing. You just, again, you learn so much at a young age, you don't realize what you're taking on. And yeah, so the first couple of years, it was a bit sort of, you know, and I always wanted to really enhance my health. I was always trying to keep fit and healthy, but weekends destroying, battling that, again, ego of feeling good and healthy, but no, I can't give up the party, because that also drives my ego too.
And that's where identity comes in. It's like until you take on a certain identity of being a certain person, it's hard to change. Yeah.
And so, and again, you know, especially having the Triple J role for 11 years, you go to gigs, everyone just kisses your ass, and it's just like, fuck, it's, you know, you can get caught up in that sometimes, and you kind of got to keep yourself on the ground, and yet it's free flowing everywhere you look. So after that, yeah, I just, you know, cold turkey, just said fuck it. So the first couple of years was really tough, you know, just trying to just stay on the wagon and just you know. And after a while, it did sort of ease a bit. I felt like I judged a lot of people as well because I'm like, you shouldn't be doing this because that's fucking, it's hard. You sort of do get on a soapbox, you know,
Yeah.
because you see that it's more beneficial for you than what it was because you're out of it. And, but you realize that you can't change other people. Like I said, my father passed just getting on 2 years coming up, and he had a major battle with alcoholism majority of his life. And I believe that was the main factor of his passing. And, there were times I kind of felt a bit guilty that I was sober and he just couldn't do it, So I wouldn't even bring it up sometimes. Because I sort of thought, not saying that, I'm stronger and he was weaker, because I draw so much inspiration from him, more so now than ever before. And I tried to help. I really did. But again, I've just had to accept that people just make the choices they make. Got to love them, can't judge them. It's tough because you know that your way is better, you feel it, and you just really want to help. And sometimes you got to go, I've got to shut my fucking mouth. They're going to walk in that pothole. I just got to stand back and watch the accident.
Yeah.
I can't stop it. It's tough because you really want to try and do that. So, so looking back, it's definitely the best thing I did. One of the hardest things I've done. Going vegan, that was a health and an ethical choice I made as well. Because again, I'd run a record label for 16 years as well, solely, and that was an immense amount of work on top of Triple J. So people would say, "Oh, how do you manage Triple J in your band?" I go, "Dude, I got a full-time job on top of all those. Triple J was part-time. I was doing, I don't even remember. I lost years of my life, 90 hours a week. I can't remember. Like I said, you asked me what I did in 03, 09, 012. It's a blur. That's kind of how I've been running life really, really, intensely for a long time. And for a while, I just thought, man, I'm just eating shit and blah, blah, blah. And health was like number 5. Emails are more important. Excel reports are important. Yet I just thought, man, I got to make a change here because I'm not as productive as I should be. Yeah, I'm sober. I feel fit, but what I'm eating is just still shit, So I had a good friend of mine who was talking to me about it once. I can't even remember how it all sort of happened. And I just jumped in. So my detox was like a 5-week hangover. I felt so shit. I just stopped everything the next day. No chicken, meat, tuna. I was eating all that shit. Got to have me protein, tuna, all that garbage. And just went, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. Because our former bass player, Tim, he'd been vegan 20 years, but he never really said anything about it. He just sort of said, everyone's on their path. And, and I said, cool, so he never really, as people say, jam it down your throats. And I try not to do that. So he never really talked about it. So this other mate of mine, Dave, in Perth, he kind of guided me through things. And after, when the detox, your sort of body starts to heal itself, I made more of a connection with the animals and the whole industry and just went, oh, fuck, I'm not contributing to this. This is wrong, realizing that I'd been programmed most of my life, just like my parents, and that's not their fault. It's just we just believe what others tell us this is what's good, and the TV advertising sinks in, and then we're all just sort of sold something, and then we just go, okay, well, I didn't know that. And okay, they didn't know that. They didn't have the studies I have now and the knowledge that they have now. And you can't believe everything on the internet, of course. But I know personally and how I feel now, it's been the right thing for me. I mean, I've got energy for days. I'm at the peak of my health. If anything, I'm aiming further. And that's not just smashing myself in a gym 6 days a week. It's recovery's great, and I'm not hurting myself. And of course, animals are living, and I just feel better, more clear about it, And it's weird because people say you fucking straight edge. What the hell? I'm like, I don't know.
What's really good from your message is that because musicians, we're generally an unhealthy bunch. We got
absolutely.
We got an appalling rate of mental health.
Yep.
Within our community. And physically, and again, it's the lifestyle musician is not really one that's conducive. However, I still think that there are ways and means that you can weave it into your life. I mean, no one has to go quite as hardcore as you, but
I just tell people do what works for you. I'm just jump in deep end, hit my head, I'll get up. Okay, that didn't work.
There's something though to be said about me being a fat fuck at 170 kilos and having dropped out and now just sort of going to the gym. Is that I'm not a junkie, I'm not a fanatic, but the difference though, and I think people will appreciate once they can clean up the diet, get a little bit of exercise in their life, get some clarity, whether it's meditation or working on shit, because we all carry shit. I mean, everyone's got so much monkeys on their back, and to work on that, and you're always going to be a work in progress. But as you can start doing that and starting with nutrition first and foremost, you'll find a difference. And I find to be more productive, clearer, make better decisions, be calmer, more rational, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I think that explains why you probably go like a fucking machine, because you got all that.
It's weird though, because it's not as machine-like as it used to be, because I can breathe. Before it was everyone's just like, you're a machine. I'd be like, yeah, I am, but oh shit, the cracks are starting to show. I'm struggling. I can't sustain this. And then you want to feel like a failure because you used to manage all these things I once did that at the time was important, and my health wasn't. But I wanted to maintain that stature, and how the hell does he do all this sort of stuff? But after a while, I just started burning out, and that happened in 2013. I went on a trip to Asia for 3-4 weeks on my own. I spent half my time in bed. And I'm thinking, I've worked my ass off to go on a holiday, to get away from work, yet still had to check emails because I was the only one running the company at the time, the whole time. So I couldn't escape that. And then, get up, have your breakfast, and go back and go to bed. And I thought, yay, what a fucking life I've created. This is bullshit, And it took me a while to come through that. A lot of friends, and this is one thing I talk to a lot of friends about who love being busy, and you hear it all the time, I'm so flat out. So how flat out are you really? Are you just caught in an overwhelming state that you are busy? Yeah, sure, you got a lot of shit on your plate, but if you start driving that more on an anxious level, you're just heightening the anxiety of what you got to do.
Yeah.
The less you sort of play it up, you can get it done, and you have a lot more time on your hands. So I know there's a lot more people go, yeah, I'm really, really busy, and I just think, oh yeah. I sometimes don't think most of them are because of their time management. I believe I've learned multitasking doesn't work as much as we all think we can do it. I think, focus on one thing, get that done next. Whereas I used to juggle and 80% there, 60% there.
And to prioritise.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well.
So, I'm sure people are pretty skilled at it, but it's just dialing in what you can get out of it without crashing and burning. But again, we're obviously in an overwhelmed society now of information, and people just get caught up in this whole busy, blah blah blah. I mean, to me, I probably do. I guess without the career, like without Triple J and the label, I'm happy I can just focus on the things that matter to me. That's my station, my health, obviously family, and my band. Yeah. Whereas and I've learnt to manage that well, where it's not burning me out like things used to. And I guess to a point, there were some things I wasn't enjoying. The label job was tough, especially watching the industry just Titanic itself. And I just go, wow, you got to work 4 times as hard for a quarter of the result you got 4 years ago. And you go, fuck, man, we're just losing a battle here. Why am I just putting all this effort into something that's just inevitable? I mean, it's, so where am I going with this tangent? It's just, where are we going with this one?
We're going tangent. Well,
yeah, I'm good at that. I told you.
Let me just. Well, let me. Okay. Well.
Being vegan, right. Burning out, just being healthy, making. Let me ask you. Reprioritizing, I guess.
All right. So let me ask you something else.
Did you get all that?
Have you got any? So tell me, through all the changes in your health and your mindset stuff, did you a lot of people that tend to do, and I know I did, certainly been on this ongoing and interested journey into spirituality, not claiming to be spiritual man or anything like that, but certainly fascinated, and I found a lot of people who've been through any kind of transformative change to some degree, have had an exploration in there. So my curiosity was to know about whether you, on your journey in life recently, has that been something that's been a factor in your life at all, or have you looked into it, or have you been fascinated by it, or has it just been off the radar?
It's hard to know because you just get a feeling, you know what I mean? It's like...
Well, I consider that to be spirituality.
Yeah, I mean, some of the thoughts I have now is what I had when I reflect back when I was 12 or 13. Okay, my parents divorced when we were really young, so that's why metal came in, and probably the biggest and best distraction of my life because I don't know what I'd be doing without it, to be honest, with, staying the course and just staying with it. But I don't know, it wasn't sort of anything like... I found a book one day and my life changed or whatever. I mean, I've always been open to sort of positive talks and stuff like that. Okay, you can. I don't think it's. Do you believe in anything?
Do you believe in anything like that? Do you believe in higher power? Do you believe in fate? Do you believe in afterlife? Is anything along those lines at all, or you've pondered it?
Afterlife, that's a big question, especially with the passing of my dad. I think that once you're gone, you're gone. But then again, there's signs I get sometimes with, like yesterday I went to my dad's old football club. He played 429 games for old Ivanhoe Grammar, holds the second highest record for the most games played in the history of the club. And, we didn't become football players, Paul and I, my brother or my younger brother Simon, we sucked at it. And I think we also had that fear of not being as good as my dad because he was just all about football. So being there yesterday was kind of surreal because the ground's the same, the club room's the same. I can see a lot of his old teammates, and I try and tap into some signs sometimes. I sort of think, shit, I wish he was here because we scattered his ashes at the ground as well because that was our second home. We sort of grew up there, going to see him play every day. So there are moments I always like, fuck, just something. Show me he's here. I try and look for it, but I don't think it's anything in the physical world you'll see. It's just a feeling you're going to get. And
so what I find interesting with all that stuff is that it's because again, I'm not a neuroscientist, but they say that every single experience we've ever had, whether it's direct or indirect, gets stored in this thing called the reticular activating system, right?
Okay.
So it's basically the hard drive that contains every single thing, including all the shit you probably thought you didn't hear, but it's there. Yeah. So it's like phenomena, for example, like the phenomenon of you might be used to driving a certain path, for example, and you've been driving this thing for fucking 20 years, and all of a sudden someone says to you, "Oh, listen, I need you to get me a some bit of gear, bit of electronic gear for a fucking whatever." And all of a sudden that day you go and drive that path and bang, there's this fucking shop. It's been there for 20 fucking years.
But you never noticed it.
But you never fucking noticed it until someone brought it to your attention.
Yep.
And that's the reason why your name's so important, because no matter what's going on, as soon as you hit your name on the other side of the room, boom, you're fucking there, because that is front and center. So again, I don't question all that stuff about people saying signs, but I'm open-minded and I like to question and I like to be curious. So that's why I say, okay, is it actually a spiritual thing happening, or is it just the fact that because you've had so much focus and you're telling yourself, you're focusing on a certain thing that,
I guess it's some awareness and focus at the same time. I mean, religion-wise, my mum and dad would argue over which school we were going to go to because I think dad was Church of England, mum was Catholic, all that stuff. And, I tell mum, look, I'm not totally into the whole church God thing, but I do believe something's there, and it doesn't necessarily mean some guy up in the clouds. It's just something within yourself. Like I said, it's more of a higher power spiritual thing, and I think people need to look within themselves as that power as opposed to looking for something else.
Yeah.
And not condoning people that are religious, but sometimes I just don't get it now. I look at it and just go, it's not my sort of thing. I'm not saying it didn't sell me at all growing up. I kind of went, oh shit, we got to go.
Well, it's interesting because religion didn't really exist. I mean, before with ancients and that, it was they were doing it, living with nature and living with accordance to nature and the cycles of nature and stuff like that. And then someone thought it'd be a great idea if I mean, at the end of the day, and no disrespect to people that are of any religious faith, but I'm just a great believer that some smart cunt back in the day realized that they could hoodwink people by saying, look, there's a boogeyman, there's some, the devil, call it whatever. And if you guys don't do this and you guys don't fucking pay us this and you don't do this and live in accordance with this and this and this, someone just pulled off a great fucking scam basically. And people who are so fear-driven, but people fear what they don't understand. So when someone comes along and says, hey, I've got the fucking answer, cunt.
Yeah, it's...
Pay us. And we'll sort it out.
I'm intrigued by it. I got a few friends in other countries, different cultures, and I cannot do this because I'm like, because of who? Like, I'm curious, who are you obeying? Like, that's how we're brought up. It's like, okay, but the thing isn't there. It's not real. I'm just curious. I'm not sort of, don't listen to that. I just go, wow, it's just some serious programming going on there in so many ways. But if people have a comfort in that, knock yourself out. I'm not about to knock them for it, but it's like, it's just not my shit.
Yeah. And no doubt about it. The tenets of most of the religions are great. They speak of good shit. Good. No, but overall it's good. If you look at it literally, but most of it's just common fucking sense in the day, be a good dude. Don't be a cunt.
I think we all know
fucking
what's
look
right
after
and wrong
people, etc. The common sense stuff that you really don't need a book or a course or some other person
to tell you,
to kind of tell you, and pay for.
Yeah, I get it.
That sort of knowledge. So, no, it's an interesting one. I don't know. Maybe there's something about getting older, but I think it's interesting how the older people get, and the closer they get to death, which is the greatest unknown and greatest fear I think people have. Then that's when they really start thinking, "Oh shit, maybe I need to be fucking get my brownie points up." Or who knows?
Well, like I said, when my father passed, that whole afterlife thing, I just went, "Fuck, that's it. Once you're gone, you're gone." Like, that's how it's hit me. Realize it. And my dad would always say, you're a short time lived, son, long time dead. And I'd be like, okay, I'd be being all morbid about it, but you just go, shit, that's like, the truth is, there's only one chance, one ride. And you hear all the cliches, but it's fucking true. I mean, at least for me now, going through this and learning to adjust to, dealing with it, which has, I feel like only now I've kind of come through the haze of the grief of it all. And best lesson I've learned from the whole thing, if I've seen a few friends since then who've lost parents on Facebook mentioning it, and I sort of just say, look, I got no other words apart from everyone else did the same thing to me. That I just tell them, don't fight the grief, just deal with it. I kind of went into oh shit, I got to get busy. I'm running from this. Oh, I didn't. I just went, all right. Like I said, I didn't train for 8 months. I was eating shit. I just hit a depression. Just went, I can't fight this on my own. I just got to let it throw me to the ground, and I'll be held there for a while. But eventually, you get back up. And now it's like I said, I do feel like my dad's part of me now, and obviously he is. He put me in. Hi, Ma. But I've learned now to tap into the fact that he's put me here, and I've got a reason to do what I want to do because of that opportunity.
Look, were you and your dad, when your dad was living, you had a good relationship with him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay, it's been a pretty up and down one for years. I mean, like I said, dealing with his alcoholism was really hard, and that's from a young age, not understanding what it was. And then seeing him sort of kind of just decline over time, but still, always loving, and it's just, there were times I wanted to sort of see the one that wasn't already on the drink. So I'd pick times I'd give him a call in the mornings because I'd wake him up and at least he wasn't already in to a drink or two or whatever. So there were times hindsight's the biggest bitch when it comes to this sort of shit, because you just go, fuck, just give me one extra chance just to that's the hardest thing for me. So for that sort of thing, we're definitely close. I mean, he supported what we did, and even though, like I said, we didn't get into football, I knew he was proud of us with music. A lot of his football teammates would always say, oh yeah, your dad would tell me, how's your radio stuff going and your band and all that stuff. So he was very proud of that and proud of us for following our passion, I guess. Because my mum would say, he's all about football. He was obsessed. I said, I'm thinking, shit, we've picked up that part because we're obsessed with music as well. I pretty much am. It's, I've had girlfriends in the past, me or your music, I'll see ya. It's like, it's what I do. It's I shouldn't have to change something I was into before you came along, and you were part of me too. But hey, this is what I do. And you hear people having to decide half the time, that's bullshit. You shouldn't have to give up on something you love doing, because it's not just totally you, it's an extension of who you are, and that should be accepted and respected. So yeah, we were definitely close. It was, there would, like I said, there were times you wanted to change the circumstance of his addiction and the problems he had, but
you can't change people.
Yeah, you can't.
As much as you feel for him, and it hurts.
Yeah, that was the hardest challenge. The acceptance is there, but yeah, I miss him every day. It's like, fuck. Like I said, I'm coming up to 2 years now, and I'm just already starting to go, fuck. It's already been 2 years. It feels like 6 fucking months. It's just gone.
Yeah,
and
does.
Others just go, oh, that was a while ago. And you go, to you, yes, but me living with it, no. It's every day of the week. You just,
and I guess the other thing, listening to what you're saying, is that having lost my dad myself, almost 11 years ago now, I think one of the great things you got out of it is that, obviously he was able to transform your life in a way, in terms of health and being the catalyst. But you did have the experience of having having a dad. Most particularly, I think creative kids and their parents, dads, especially their old school dads like yours was, and obviously mine was. They really appreciated us wanting to do what we wanted to do, particularly stuff that was outside their understanding. So you know what, mate? I think it's great that, on the positive note, that you had a dad who supported you, he was proud of you. You got to hear him say that. He actively, went out there and spruiked you up to his mates.
I mean, like, for mum at the time around that, because obviously parents were split, but mum, she was quite surprised, I guess, about the whole, after the funeral thing, and just how much of an impact, because we'd always ring, dad was pissed last night, we had another fight, blah, blah, blah. But you never stop loving, and mum would always just hear us talk about the negative stuff. So I don't think she knew just how much of an impact it had, because there were a lot of bad times that she would generally hear, because, you got your parents, you ring them and say, oh, this is fucked or whatever, and you talk about it. And it's not always the good stuff, but because they'll listen, So I think she was really surprised with, I wouldn't say the word hero worship, or maybe so. Yeah, I mean, to me, my dad was, my hero in a lot of ways. I told him that for years. Hence my obsession with Rocky films. He was my Rocky. You know what I mean? It's like, again, all the football stuff. He would like. That's why I mentioned it during my eulogy. I said that, I guess, out of the two of my other brothers, I've probably tapped into the whole mental motivation side of my dad than those two, because I tend to keep fitter. And yeah, I feel like I've probably got that instilled at a young age, and I didn't understand it back then. He used to say, you got to be good kids, because we're always misbehaving and stuff, and he'd always say, you got to want the want, and we were like, what the fuck does that mean? And we just had no idea, and he would just, and I realized, fuck it, just some of that stuff just makes so much sense. Like I found an old video of his final football game. Channel 7 came down and did some filming. I put it up on my page, and the coach is having a rant, quarter time or whatever, and then they sort of said, right, over to you, Snapper, which is his nickname, Alan Snapper Haug, go figure. And he would just, talking about digging deep and all that sort of, it's all part of the footy culture as well, but it is about winning the game. And again, we moved away from the whole football culture personally, but all those words, I just think, fuck, they're in there somewhere. Like I said, you store it up there somewhere, and like I said, now when I go training and stuff like that, I'll have some of Dad's favourite songs on my pod, and it's like he's with me doing that stuff. So, from coming up from that, like now I know that, he's always there to motivate, as opposed to dealing with the loss. You always will, but people say it does get a bit easier, and I'm kind of positive to say it actually is.
Yeah, I think
Mum would say,
time does heal. I mean, you never forget. You never forget that they're always there. Nothing can ever bring them back or compensate, but at least over time it does ease. I think, again, that's from my experience over 11 years, and I still think about them.
Absolutely. I mean, he'd listen to my show every week on the Jays just for my pronunciations, and he'd pick fault at my grammar because he was a stickler for that sort of stuff.
Right, okay. Well, that's
and
good.
He'd say, you didn't say this correctly, and sorry. So every week I'd go on air, and I know that he'd be listening, and then
you'd be on point.
Yeah, and I would throw it at him and say, I said that right, didn't I, Dad? Stuff like that. So all sorts of things, but tangentsisus.com.
Yeah. Tell me about radio, right? Well, more specifically, teaching. How'd you get into that, and how do you teach? Like, what do you teach the kids in radio? I mean,
a good friend of mine, Heidi Everett. Hello, Heidi. From the Radio Training Institute in South Melbourne. It's probably one of the only radio training schools in Melbourne, which is fantastic. Just got in touch with her through another friend who is in radio, and just sort of said, hey, tell us a bit about the school, and sent her what I'd done, and she's like, come on down. A lot of the students are aiming more towards the commercial side of things, Kiss FM and Fox and whatever.
Yeah.
But she goes, your experience, because I'm more niche, obviously. Excuse me. She said that, my experience, people would like to hear a few of your stories and what you've done. I was like, okay, cool. So come down and bring on the tangents. But it's a lot of fun, because I tell people that radio is not a right. It's a privilege. I just think that you're just talking to people, and they actually have the option to either listen to you or turn the channel.
That's right.
No one's being forced to listen to you talk shit. How many times do you skim a straight? Oh, this dickhead's talking. Skip channel. Oh, that idiot. We've all got choices just to go yes or no. And again, your voice is not going to appeal to everybody as well. Some people don't like certain tones and things. So they all like to be drawn into stuff that we feel comfortable with. But it's great. I mean, I don't do it as often, but I'd like to do a lot more of it, just because, like I said, radio is just so much fun and a privilege to do, and just sharing the knowledge, I guess.
What makes a good presenter, in your opinion? What makes a presenter appealing that people want to listen to, or to connect with?
I just think honesty. It's hard because I've known, I won't name names, of quite a few other DJs over my career of radio who have got the skill so perfectly down, they just become so soulless. And not everyone can pick that because they sound great. They go, hey, blah, 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 and this is a great track. And you go, you're just reading the script, man. There's nothing real about it. I just think, fuck up. That's what makes it honest. I screwed up all the time every week on the Jays. It was awesome because at least people know that they were listening to someone real, as opposed to, because I never learnt radio. I just fell into it. I had no idea I was going to do any of this sort of shit. I just wanted to be close to the riffs and keep talking about it and do whatever, land yourself somewhere. People always ask, well, how'd you get into what you got into? I go, fuck, where do I start? You know, it's just, okay, it's the old cliche, networking, but that's a big part. But yeah, the whole thing, I think just be honest, be integral.
Being authentic, yeah.
But you don't have to know everything. I mean, people say, Rock, you're an encyclopedia. I go, well, there's probably other idiots out there know a lot more than me, but it's all in. I think it's just delivering a passion and being excited about it and enjoying it. Like there were weeks I'd do stuff on the Jays and I'd just be tired or sick or not in the mood, and you just got to snap into it and then go, right, cool. People are looking forward to this, and you find that, like I said, my final year, I knew that those 3 hours were really vital because the people are still tuning in and they don't know what's coming. That this is it kind of deal. So that would be a really good 3 hours for me. And then, I'd hit the doldrums driving home going, fuck, it's one less show I'm going to be doing. What's going to happen next? What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. So you sort of learn to not so much turn it on and be fake about it. You just get in your zone and you just go, this is where I'm most comfortable because I love doing this. And people can hear that. And
more important, I think people feel it too, man.
Yep.
There's just something they just inherently feel. And again, anyone can put on a great performance and be polished, and that can be impressive to a point. But as I said, I think people's bullshit detectors are a lot more sensitive than people they get credit for.
Yep.
And so, and authenticity is one of those things. It's pretty binary, man. You either are or you're not, and people just they feel it or they don't. So
I always tell people, don't compare yourself to other people. Just be inspired by them. I mean, I got inspired by Francis Leach as a really great announcer, and he, when I went from Triple R to the Jays, I thought, fuck, I've got to take a massive step up here because I'm on a national platform now. Yeah. Shit, I'm with some really good presenters, and here I am going, this is the next album from Dark Angel. I thought, fuck, I've got to change this presentation. So I just tenfold, and I'd listen to these people and not so much copy them, but just be inspired by them. But I always tell people, because I get some of the students, they say, I love your show and blah, blah, blah. And, you're an awesome announcer. I was like, cool, but don't try and copy me. Take the parts. You can pinch a few scripts here and there and back announcing and all that stuff. I've stolen a bit from others, but you kind of make it your own rather than just be a clone of somebody else.
Sure.
And I tell them, don't, because you'll find your own way anyway and your own little niche. Yeah, be inspired, don't compare, because otherwise you're going to be like, oh, fuck, I'll never be as good as such and such. I was telling that to a friend the other day. I go, just the whole people comparing and stuff to other people it's damaging. Because,
it's an epidemic, mate.
Yeah, it's fucked because, and again, like I said, the iceberg and people not seeing what that person's gone through to get to that level. Always ask about their failures if you get a chance to speak to some of these people and say, how did you get where you got and tell us all the fuck ups. Don't tell us all the good shit because the good shit's out there. Everyone wants to see it. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. But again, I think a lot of people are afraid. Again, it's coming the fear of like, well, what are people going to think of me?
Yeah.
If I tell them this. But the reality is, if you thought of it, someone else has, man. So, and again, I think people these days are more. I think that they're more accepting. I think that you're more believable when you can talk about your failings and where you fucked up and be completely transparent about it. Or at least, you don't have to give every single detail, but at least you're there to sort of show both sides of who you are, where you went wrong, what your failings are, and be okay with it. Because I think people may look at you up at a certain level, and then when they go, oh, shit, so this guy had anxiety. Oh, this guy took drugs. Oh, this guy was this and this, And I think this is where people get hope because then they go, well, despite all that shit, you've managed all that. So some kid is watching who may feel like he's a piece of shit because that's how he's been programmed to believe that. And once he can do something about his self-esteem and he can see, well, like this guy managed to do this despite this and this and this, which I can relate to. Well, why isn't there any reason why I can't do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you got to be willing. Again, guys like us, need to be willing to be able to put it out there and just say, look, here is at least sharing our story. It doesn't necessarily have to be your story, but this is our story. But at least there's some honesty about it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why it's been a privilege to come on here and shoot the shit. But so I always tell people, don't compare yourself. Just be inspired, but find your own path. Same as playing music, drummers. I mean, shit, I got a ton of drummers I'm inspired by. I pinch a few beats here and there, but I try to be the best Andrew Haug I can be for the band I play in, as opposed to, I want to try and, be a carbon copy of my idols. I mean, I know what I pinch and I know where the fills come from.
Yeah.
But
that's one thing, as you said, you take elements and bits, like we all
make it
learn
your
from
own.
observing and watching others, and we find the things that we like, and so we'll incorporate that. But you're right. How many times I get bands that come in and say, we want to sound like those guys, and I can understand they want to be within a certain ballpark.
Yeah.
So I get all that, but then it's like, well, hang on a minute. Why do we want to sound like these guys when we want to make your album and make the CD that some band will go to some engineer somewhere else in the world and say, we want to sound like those guys, and be more of a trendsetter than trendy.
Absolutely, exactly.
But again, fear, because again, we're not enough. It's not good enough. No one's going to like it. Yeah. Who knows? You don't know.
Exactly.
Until
I tell people I'd rather fail as me than succeed as a clone, because eventually you get put in a box with all the other clones and then they sort of get ignored and whatnot. I don't know. I've always, that's what I told Paul, especially band stuff. I said, we'll just keep doing what we do because we're doing it for our own integrity and purposes.
And enjoyment,
And enjoyment, exactly. Because that's what I had a thought about it tonight. Some people sort of say, why are you doing it for in music? And it's a waste of time and there's no money in it. I go, well, it all just depends on what your motives are. I mean, okay, you can't be naive. It is a business. There are things you need to pay for to get to where you got to get to. That's the reality. But you got to figure out what the driver is in your head to why you're doing this stuff. And again, others just to fame and be a rock star, and others just because I had a shit childhood and I want to get it out of my system, and others it makes me feel whatever. I mean, as long as you know why you're doing it, then you can stay on that path and hopefully get what you want to get out of it. But, like I said, I tell people, don't chase success, because it's not going to fucking...
And success is such a abstract concept as well, because, again, people think of it more in terms of external stuff and what they achieve and status. And
well, that's the problem. And today with society, everything's judged on what you own and how big... Like, people say, oh, your band, I haven't heard of your band before. I'm like, cool, there's a billion others that I haven't heard of either. Like, then just you get that judgment of, oh, you sort of know where. It's like, well, that's just your judgment. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm succeeding because I'm doing what I love doing. I'm playing it with my brother. But others look at the external factor of, oh, so how many likes you got on Facebook? Oh, right, how many people come to your shows? Oh, shit. You go, I can give a fuck. Others just look at it in so many different terms, and that's their deal. That's all cool. But just tell people, do it for the reasons that make you feel alive.
Yeah. And the making it, in my view, is always the fact that you're just in the game and doing it, even if it's something you do casually alongside your job, but you manage to do it on the weekend or evenings, even as a hobby. Just the fact that you're doing it rather than sitting there hoping that you're going to make it or waiting for the right time or the right moment, which never fucking comes.
I always laugh when people say, we got to make it, like Yank bands. And you go, fucking define making it. Okay, on an external sense, financially, I don't have to get up and work for some dickhead doing a job. I get to play music for a living. Yay. Not a lot of get through that, but that's success. But people don't look at the internal factor because we're all driven by the whole, they've got a bigger pool than my friend's band, and they got fucking bigger house in the Hollywood Hills. It's like, that shit it's just, you can't keep that. It's all, it's not forever and blah blah blah, and I see it all the time now. I hear it and you just go, striving but never arriving. They just. And again, that's their stick. You just hope they sort of wake up.
Do you think that someone
it.
comes with age? And do you think that's an age thing?
I don't know. Yes and no. I think it's just an awareness you get. I've sort of had this for a long time. Like I said, it's just and learning in the business behind the scenes, just sort of seeing how it works that's what's that opened my eyes. Same as some people come up, when you're on Triple J, you've made it. And I said, what? So because I'm not on that platform now, I haven't made it, or what am I now? I've gone down. It's like, that's the journey of life, peaks and troughs. It's just going to happen, but. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still making it because I'm still living the passion of doing what I love doing, and that's just representing and contributing to the metal music scene. So in my terms, every day I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm making this. Yeah, not every day the money's there for the bills and all the stuff you got to run it for.
Yeah, totally.
But unfortunately, society's just programming so much bullshit to people. Just that's how you got to make it and blah blah blah. And so even if you hear all these people, even if they do make it financially, they fuck it up.
Yeah.
So
they're still not happy.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Absolutely, so. It's all internal. So, it's not
So let me ask you. Okay. So before we kind of wind it up,
we're gonna have a 4-hour special.
10 DVD box set.
Yep.
So all right. So some kids watching, listening, perhaps someone who's followed you, fan of yours, on the outside, nose pressed up against the glass, looking in. What do you think are probably just some good, practical, simple things that a kid can do from today, who may have aspirations, who wants to do, whether they want to do a metal show, whether they want to get into music or touring or whatever, just pursuing that thing that gives them a heart on. Just some simple, basic things that you'd want to share that they could take away that hopefully will give them something to maybe tilt them off in a
I
different
think it's
trajectory.
just self-belief. I know you hear the cliches bounce around. You see people put stupid shit on Facebook. But it's like that. The cliches are out there. People just read them, but they don't feel them. You got to get up and you got to fucking, live the best life you can. Yeah, man. And you're like, are you really feeling that, or are you just reading it and getting a pump up for 5 minutes and then you just go back to your safety world of shit and you complain and be a victim about it? I think self-belief, that's just for me. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you stories of just, why am I doing this? This is fucked. And this is all through most of my life.
Yeah.
Of growing up and not feeling good enough, not being good enough and all that stuff. I think a lot of people carry that, but I just think that, as I say, what's that Aussie song off, I think it's off Blizzard of Oz. You got to believe in yourself or no one will believe in you or something like that. I mean, it's just so true, but not everyone sort of really taps into that properly. And they rely on others to pump them up and make them feel good. And that's good for the short term, but eventually the crowd's going to disappear and not say anything anymore. And you're left on your own going, fuck, who am I? You've got to just tap into, I'm not going to say pumping yourself up, but I just think believe in yourself and sticking with what you're doing. You're going to cop shit. I cop shit even when I was doing Triple J from people. Oh, you're still doing that radio thing. I'm like, fuck yeah, man. It's the biggest show in the country. Like, whatever. And it just says a lot about them. A lot of detractors, as I've seen on your videos, most people are going to say shit. It says a lot more about them than you.
It's totally about them.
And I just
totally
go, okay, cool. Another one is insecure. See ya. Happy life. Whatever. I don't give a fuck. I'm off to Jakarta next week. I'm going to Europe next. See ya. You just can't get caught up in that. I mean, if I spent most of my career worrying about the shit I've copped, and I've copped a ton. Like, people come to me, I went to a party last week and some dickhead was paying out on you. I stuck up for you. I'm like, fuck these people. Because none of them have ever come up to me face to face at a pub and said, fucking you, Andrew Haug. Like, yeah. No one. If they're ready to throw down, let's do it. But no one's ever done it. They're fucking gutless. Yeah. So I tell them, don't buy into it. Sometimes you can fall into it. Don't get me wrong. I've gone on, here's a review of our last record. Holy shit, this person fucking hates us. What have we done? This album's great. My fucking heart's on my sleeve with this record. Why don't they get it? And you start to feel like shit. But then that's just me buying into that crap and my emotion to it. So I've learned just to go, all right, I'll stand back, neutral, have a read, laugh. Oh, shit, this is pretty bad. But I don't have to own it that long and get stuck in it. Because it can be self-defeating, and someone rips into you and stuff. Because everyone's, especially now, fucking everyone's got a voice and opinion for social media. Yeah. Probably one of the worst things that's happened to the communication of the world, because now everyone's a fucking expert. And you just go, don't buy into it. Just as much as it's a cliche, I tell people just live their passion and love what you do and just deal with the shit you're going to get, because most people don't do that. The 90% do not live that way because they stand on like I tell people, it's like a fucking football match as an example. Most people are happy to be spectators, safe in the stands, pick and fold at all the people out in the game / life playing it. And everyone's got an opinion of what they did wrong. And so, well, you fucking get out there and do it. Yeah. And they go, oh, no, I'm happy up here. Yeah. So that's how most people live. It's sad because they realize that they just have as much of a chance to get out there and do what they want to do. Yeah. But again,
but ultimately they make a choice. Yeah. And that's their choice. They've got to live with it.
Exactly. So I just tell people you will get the hate, and the hate will never stop. Just don't amplify it as much, because it can get into your psyche a bit. And I'm not going to deny it hasn't hit me over the years. Of course it has. But if I let it over the years, would I have done what I've done now? Probably like I said, if when it came to, I didn't tell anyone about the station as I was building it, like 6 or 8 months. Everyone's like, fuck. I created a Facebook page 2 weeks before my final show and said, I'm going to come up with something. And that's when I was toying at the idea, but keep in touch and I'll see what we can do, If I'd have gone on there and said, I'm thinking about doing this, opinions I would have come, no, don't fucking do that, nobody. And then I probably would have gone, maybe I shouldn't, and start listening to the negative, and I probably wouldn't have done it. But I chose to listen to my own instinct myself, deal with the shit that, I've made my bed, I've got to sleep in it, no matter how bad it gets. I'm responsible, and that's what I went ahead and did it. And then when I put it out there, it's like, okay, now here you go. It's done now. I've started it. I'm glad I actually listened to myself first. Yeah. Cool. I asked for a couple of small opinions. Ones I knew that wasn't going to be, oh, no, you don't want to do that. Especially with family. They got their
Their
emotional
best
interest
is-
of
yeah.
exactly. So sometimes they're not the most ideal people to talk to about it. Sorry, Mo. But again, just listening, just believe in yourself, and just try and find like-minded people that might get you. Give them a call, or send them an email or something. Just say,
Peer group,
look,
man, peer group.
none of my friends are getting this, or I want to do this and this and this. I can't think of anyone else to contact. Bang. What do you think? And most of the people that you might admire or will come back and say, totally do it, whatever. They're the people you got to seek out.
Yeah.
Don't just hit up a mate who's going to stay safe, because they'll go, nah, you don't want to do that. Because people are more worried about where you're going to go, and you're not going to bring them with you, or they're going to feel less around
or
you.
they're going to lose you. It's the thing.
It happened to me early in the piece when I started doing some work for another label before I started running a label. And everyone's like, oh, because I'd gone from the warehouse to the label upstairs, and some days I come back down and work at the warehouses at Shock Records. And some friends were just like, oh, you think you're better than us, And I was like, oh, fuck, am I being ostracized now? I want to have my mates downstairs, but I'm trying to have fun and learn something new upstairs with a bigger opportunity. And I noticed the detractors back then, but still got sort of caught up in it all. But you just can't hang in there. It's just not good.
Yeah, and you press on.
No.
Andy, we've got to go,
Fuck it.
man. We've got to go. We've
10-hour box set coming soon.
Unfortunately.
Told you there were tangents. I knew I was going to rant.
It's fine. No, that's one of the reasons I wanted you here, man. Because
Shit.
the best guests are the ones who just they have lots to say, and they've got lots of good shit to say. And you particularly, one of the things of this podcast is, it's great talking music and about all the technical side of things and how all that works, and that's great, and people have an interest in that. But I think for me, it's about bringing more of the humanity in the people that we get on, so that they can share their story and be very authentic about it and open about it. Because again, this is about inspiring kids, man.
Yep.
It's about just getting out to, and not just kids, but even bigger kids. Because things didn't really tap in for me until way later in life, in my late 40s. So hopefully people will see something, and it all takes a pivotal moment.
Yeah, it does.
So when someone hears or listens to somebody tell their story, and again, your story is only good when it relates to someone else. And I think we can all across the board can relate on many different levels on lots of different things. But when they see someone's got enough balls to talk about this stuff, and they hear about, oh wow, this is what they did. Oh, that's what they did. It's all about giving people hope, mate. Yeah. And again, it's about, if you can be that first domino to stop reaction, then you've done your job. Now, you don't know who's watching, who's listening. We don't know. We don't know if anyone's been affected. Hopefully we have, but that's the whole, that's the purpose of doing this, man. That's the purpose of doing this.
Getting it out there.
And to get people on in, the creative arts industry to talk about their stuff, talk about the real life shit, so that, people can hopefully get some hope and get on with life and move away from their rut and realize that they're not shit cunts. They're normal. They're fine. And they can get on with it. And so really, thanks so much for sharing your story, man.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
You're like the quintessential fucking archetypal fucking person I want to have on the show. So
I do my thing.
So thank you so much for being on
Thanks,
today, mate.
mate.
It's a fucking great podcast. Really appreciate it.
Good shit.
All right, so when's the album going to drop real quick?
Hopefully late July, August.
Okay.
Shopping at the moment, see what happens.
And can we whack up at some stage the Facebook... Oh, there you go. So all your details are up online in terms of social media, so people want to contact you, they can. So thanks very much, mate. Say go to Paul next time you speak to him. Thanks very much for coming here today. Now, as I said, this is our last podcast from the Croxton Park next Sunday night. Tomorrow we're going to be announcing our next guest of the podcast. We're going to be doing it from Deluxe Studios. We're really excited about that. So thanks very much for those coming down. Thank you so much to Croxton Park for having us here the last 6 or 7 weeks. Thanks to my production crew, Tom Overend and Tennille and Helena and everyone else involved with the Backline project. We're out of here. We'll see you soon, guys. And as I always say, please be nice to each other. But more importantly, be nice to yourselves. Love you, fucks. See you later, guys.
See ya. Thank you, mate. Shit.